we're going to do a hard gear change here, Liam, from our teams to star players and what their teams could be in 2027, because I have picked out 10 of the biggest named free agents heading into the 2026 off-season for us to talk about today. A couple of key caveats, because we always have caveats. The status of free agents is not confirmed as of yet in terms of restricted, unrestricted. That'll be confirmed closer to round 0. So we will know close to the time. Okay. I have nominated 3 teams per player that I think should be chasing this player. I will explain for each one why, but you can also assume that there are going to be more clubs that would have a logical need for these players. So when we look at the first player and we say, wow, why isn't this top 10 midfield in the competition being chased by Carlton? Are you stupid? No, but there are reasons why the other 3 clubs are higher. Happy, Liam?
Jesse, I'm always happy, my friend. I'm always happy. Let's kick it off with the first one off the ranks. You've gone with Mr. Zach Butters, obviously a big name to get. Teams to chase, Jesse: Essendon, the Hawks, and the Tigers. Obviously, Essendon and the Tigers could really use someone of Zach Butters' skill. Hawks? Why the Hawks?
I actually think this is a race in 2 between Essendon and Hawthorn, and that's including Port Adelaide in that conversation. I don't think Butters is re-signing.
Okay.
I think Port will miss the finals this year. Yes, even the 10-team finals, and Butters will go, which is a real shame for Port, because I think they could have really built something special with him, Horne-Francis, Rosa, even a guy like Jace Burgoyne coming through as well. I think they really had a potential to build a pretty good team here. I think Butters is going to Victoria. Essendon can offer more money. Hawthorn can offer immediate prospects of success. Richmond, I think it's a race in 2 between Essendon and Hawthorn. I put Richmond in there because if the Tigers do show a bit of upside this year, which we expect that they will, you get the right sales pitch to a guy like Butters, because they could obviously pay him probably the same as Essendon,
sure,
if not more. I think Richmond are ahead in their rebuild than where the Bombers are. So if you're saying, well, look, lose the battle of 2027, don't worry about that. We'll still get one more year of very good draft picks before Tasmania, take a sledgehammer to the draft order. All of a sudden, our rebuild's done. We're on the up in a time where clubs that are going on the downward swing, like potentially Hawthorn, struggling. So, Zach Butters probably has the right to demand immediate success.
Yep.
Given he's been close. He's played in prelims. He's played in very good finals teams at Port, but he obviously hasn't won the premiership. So a team like Hawthorn is immediately very attractive to him. They missed out on Zach Merritt. I don't think Hawthorn will go back for Zach Merritt. I think they'll go for Butters now.
Yeah, done and dusted.
Or I think that would be the smart option. Like just pay the man.
Well, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Merritt this year and how he actually plays. He might do himself a mischief and not actually be worth, well, not anything, but he might really devalue himself if he has a really poor year based on his just mental capacity of being at Essendon still. So I wouldn't blame the Hawks to kind of switch their gears to Zach. How many years Zach got left, do you reckon?
Well, he was drafted in 18, so he's got plenty. He's at the halfway point of his career, if that.
I feel like he's been around forever.
I know. Well, because he pretty much played from round 1 2019. Yeah. Like he was one of those guys who was straight in that best 22 for Port, a pretty good best 22 as well at that point in time. So look, to me it's a race in 2. I'd like to see Richmond make a real push. And that may not directly complement the way Richmond want to rebuild, which is worth caveating here. They may want to go a different way in terms of money balling, not spending on the big name guys, which is a mistake that clubs like Essendon and Carlton have made in the past. But I think Butters is one of those guys where you're not looking at a Zach Williams in the case of Carlton. You're not looking at a guy that's, he's pretty good, he's pretty handy. Like, Butters is a very, very, very good player that is in the upper echelon of mids. If we were to do a tier list of the mids, I'd put probably Butters in, assuming there was 100 mids, top 10 gets S tier. I'd probably go S tier for Butters.
Okay.
If not the very top of A. Like, he's very, very good. So, worth the risk for Richmond, but 2 clubs clearly in the box. I don't think he re-signs for Port. Look, people have been wrong before. I don't think he's staying.
Yeah, I think there's been enough narrative around it and feeling. And sometimes gut feel is all you need, Jesse.
Even with Naz, there was always that reasonable prospect if you're staying at St Kilda. I don't think it's the same scenario with Butters. Not from anything that I've seen.
It'd have to be a pretty epic year from Port, you reckon?
Yes,
for him
I do.
Want to stay. Yeah. Fair enough, Jesse. Let's move on. We've got 10 to go through, so we'll go to the next one for you now. We've got Sam Walsh up next, Carlton mid. Teams to chase, Saints, Geelong, and the Crows. Two teams that are, everyone goes to the Geelong, and they always are good. Can the Saints afford him, Jesse?
No, they can't. But this was really hard, right? Because I looked at Sam Walsh and I thought, what a perfect fit for what St Kilda are trying to do here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
Because they've gotten rid of Jack Steele, which is the right decision. Absolutely the right decision for the salary he was on. They've got a soft underbelly, the Saints. They don't have a lot of grunt guys. Zach Jones is gone. Jack Steele is gone. A lot of those guys that would be they'd be relying on to do that hard work to get guys like Wanganeen Miller going. I don't think Macrae's got much left. Certainly outside of 2026, I think that's probably the last really quality. I mean, look, the Dogs cut him for a reason at the end of the day. He was very good last year for the Saints. He was a key part of some of their better wins, but I mean, we've got to be a bit realistic here, don't we? So I think if the Saints, by some miracle, can swing this, Walsh has to be relentlessly pursued.
I'm so intrigued to see like the backup plan for St Kilda coming into the following years after this year.
Yeah, so am I.
Have they got something amazing up their sleeve that they're just like, you guys didn't think about this, did you? Because
they must, because they're so all in on Jack Silvani. Like that's where we are. We're all in on Jack Silvani and Liam Ryan to win a premiership. And Ryan's done that before, but I don't think he was on $700K a year when he did it.
No.
Geelong, it's obvious, isn't it? Like I think you look at that Dangerfield. I think Dangerfield retires at the end of this season. He's a free agent. I didn't put him in here because I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But Geelong, that's a perfect slot in, isn't it? Gives Holmes and Smith the right to roam around GMHBA. I think that's probably where Sam Walsh ends up. That's probably the most likely scenario. Even overstaying at Carlton, because, I mean, let's face it, Carlton are going to drop to probably, 12th this season. Walsh is
and how can you say no
wrong
to
side
Geelong?
of 30.
How do you say no to Geelong?
India. Exactly. I'm pretty sure he's also from there, or from the southwest region in Victoria. I could be totally wrong on that. I think he might be, though. So
offer him $300K in a farm and away he goes. Done.
350.
Fair enough.
And Adelaide are always going to be sniffing around where there's an opportunity to get a quality midfielder. I think that's probably the one missing piece for them. And especially given, I think Dawson's repertoire is better used as an outside mid. I think they'll want a guy that can go inside and free up Dawson to do what he does best. So Walsh is a perfect complement, I think, to him in that regard.
Very good, Jesse. Let's move on to the next player. We've got Zach Bailey from the Brisbane Lions. A couple of battlers here. Go on.
I think Bailey stays.
Yep.
I think Bailey stays. The only club I can see him going to is Essendon, and that's if Brisbane win the flag this year and he three-peats. Because at that point, 1.4 million, because apparently is the number being floated for Zach Bailey by the Bombers. Apparently, you take that, and that's obviously he's going to be well compensated if he stays at Brisbane. But that type of money, 3 premierships.
When does it get to the point when you've got too many premierships, Jesse?
Well, never. But I think at that point, like you certainly that changes the equation rather than having one or even 2.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Bailey might be happy with 2 and say, you know what, I just want to go to Victoria and get paid. And I think at that point, given what he's provided to the Lions, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I do think he is more likely to stay. He doesn't strike me as a guy that wants to get out of Brisbane. The only thing is the Lions may kind of give him a tap and say, Zach, we kind of need the salary space here. Although Lachie Neale likely departs. Dane Zorko potentially retires. I don't think Zorko's on a lot, but these little things help.
Yep.
So I think Bailey's more likely to stay than go. If he does leave, I think it's Essendon. I don't think Carlton will pay him 1.4. I think they really are changing their recruitment strategy. But Essendon have been directly linked with that amount of money. Now, while I think that's a catastrophic deal for what the Bombers are what they need to do and what they need to achieve, he's a very good player. Are you spending 1.4 million on a Bugatti when you still need to get your Patrol and your Prado and actually get from A to B and tow the Bugatti in the first place? Yeah. Because, I don't think Archie Perkins is going to be towed. I think he's a bit of a Fiat.
Yeah.
I don't think a Fiat's going to tow a Bugatti.
No. Good analogy, Jesse. I like that. It was good.
Giants as well. Look, this is hard because I think the Giants have actually got pretty good coverage in this spot. I know Darcy Jones is out this season. They drafted well in and around the medium to small forward dynamics as well. But I mean, I think he would really suit the Giants' play style. So for that reason alone, it's worth a phone call.
Fair enough. Now you haven't got obviously Lockie in this list with good reason.
Well, no, I still think Lockie Neal could be effective in 2027. I just think these 10 players are more interesting.
Fair enough. And also, I think Lockie said he wants to come back to Perth. There's not many options for there, Jesse. There are 2.
Well, North Melbourne are here 3 times a year, so there's 2.5.
Very good point. Let's move on to your next one, which I think is quite an interesting one. Ben King from the Suns. Obviously, the Magpies are in desperate need for a key forward. And here are our 2 key offenders for this video so far, Jesse, the Bombers and the Blues.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because you look at teams with desperate needs, and oftentimes there's teams in the bottom 10, either with cash or with clout. And that is more often than not these 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ben King stays. Still, same draft class as Butters. Still very much on the upwards trajectory, I feel, and has been a part of some very bad Gold Coast sides that are now starting to bear the fruits of their labour. I understand that argument of, well, they've got Jamara now, they've got Ethan Reid, they've got Jed Walter, could Ben King be pushed out? It's possible.
Sure.
But I still think he has the ability to command that forward line without having issues from the other guys. I think Jamara worked really well with Aaron Norton at the Dogs as a 1-2 punch. I don't necessarily see that changing the dynamic up on the Gold Coast too much. So I'm going to lean stays.
Well, I mean, if he has a good year, Jesse, if he has a really, really banner year, then it's going to be great because Collingwood are just going to throw the absolute book at him. He's going to make it very hard to say no. They're going to have to make it hard to say no if they want to get him down there.
Well, Collingwood will need Pendlebury and Sidebottom to retire.
Well,
if I want to throw the absolute book at him.
Pendle still has like 6 years left. He's fine.
Yeah, I know. But Collingwood have committed some big money in recent years. Guys like Houston, Darcy Cameron, obviously Nick Dacos. So there is monetary commitments at the Pies, which may make that a bit harder. But obviously, a chance to play for a club like Collingwood, it's not something to immediately turn down just because the money may not be as high as it would be at Essendon or at Carlton. Carlton, I think, desperately need a key forward because I'm concerned about Harry Mackay. I don't really think they've got much stock in the wings in that key forward arena at the moment. And I mean, Essendon, we can't rely on Peter Wright. So, I suspect Essendon will be very active on the phones coming into the trade period. They need to land a big fish.
Well, they won't appear for a little bit longer, Jesse. A couple of slides now without any Essendon in there, which is great. Let's move on.
Because I realised I used them about 4 at this point. I needed to try and diversify. So I actually changed the player order around to make it less monotonous.
Essendon needs everybody. All right, let's go to the next one. Bailey Fritsch, another forward, Jesse. Port Sydney and the North Melbourne Kangaroos for Bailey Fritsch.
I think North needs to be a reasonable consideration here because I've always gotten the sense that there's a deal to be done for Cam Zurhaar to either West Coast or Fremantle. Probably right now more so West Coast. But I get the sense that North could get a pretty good deal out of trading Zurhaar if they wanted to. Now, that does come with the caveat of North could really spike in production this year and Zurhaar could be a big part of that. So that does obviously change the dynamic there.
Sure.
But I think Fritsch has always had to play 2 tall, 2 forward, except for the one season that Ben Brown was healthy and they won a flag that year.
Yep.
At the D's. So having Larkey, I think would bring out the best in Fritsch, and having Fritsch might even bring out the best in Larkey. So I think there's a fit there. And that could work out quite well. Sydney, look, I know they've got Charlie Curnow. I'm really worried about the Swans forward line, arguably because of Charlie Curnow. So let's bolster the stocks around him, I think, as well. Both injury, age, form slumps.
Mm-hmm.
You need guys around him that can score goals, and Amadi just is not that. Port, for me, make a lot of sense for Fritsch. Georgiades spiking in production, going on an upwards trend. Marshall, injury prone, but also Fritsch is a very different forward to those two. So if all 3 are healthy and firing, they can comfortably fit together. And but they've had to rely on guys like Ollie Lord up forward. Lord's fine, he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can get Fritsch on a decent contract, and look, if Butters does leave, they should have a bit of cap space to dole out. So I think that works. And all of a sudden you land Fritsch in 26, you land Wangan and Miller in 27. Even without Butters, you've then got Georgiades and a veteran Fritsch up forward. You've got a stacked midfield. an absolutely stacked midfield. Just need one or two defensive pieces. All of a sudden, Port can be top 4 contenders again in 2 years. Like, it's not unrealistic.
No, not at all. I think, and I feel like Fritsch is one of those players who feels like he needs a bit of a fresh start. A fresh start.
I agree.
Fresh start for Fritsch.
If I had to lean on the scale, I would say Leaves. But where two of these three, if not another club, I don't think there's a clear favourite at this point.
Understandable. All right, Jesse, let's move on to your next entry. Jordan Butts, the Suns, the Maggies and the Tigers for Jordan Butts as your potential homes.
I think Butts stays, but there's a lot of quality around him, so I thought it was worth including him in this list just in case his head is turned. Suns, I don't know how much they can offer him dollar-wise, but they're outside entering a premiership window alongside the Crows, so that does make sense from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Collingwood, massive club, probably need a guy like Butts as well, just to shake up what they can offer, transition the ball forward.
Well, speaking of transition, I feel like Collingwood's in a bit of a transitional stage. You're about to enter a transitional stage, so it's going to be, important for them to have their eyes open for these players because, it's going to be a really interesting couple of years for the Pies.
No, I agree. And Richmond, I mean, they're obviously rebuilding players with the quality and skills of Butts. If they can offer him a decent contract that he can't really say no to, it makes sense for both parties, I think, especially if the Crows win the flag this year.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, that'd be nice. Been a minute for them. I think they're going to be good too. All right, let's go, Jesse, to the next one. Mitch Lewis from the Hawthorn Hawks. Hey, look, they're back.
They are back. So Lewis is an interesting one for me because when he's on the field, brilliant talent. Clearly an electric player and one that is worth having in your side.
Sure.
However, you can't ignore the injury factor, and it's not his fault. No one is having a go at Mitch Lewis for this. But from a value and a list management point of view, you can't dive into a player like him without having that conversation. Because is 15 games, if that, worth a big deal? There are some clubs that would say worth the gamble. Probably the club he's at now, to be honest, given where they are in their window. There are other clubs who are rebuilding that just can't take that risk. I think Lewis stays, to be honest, especially with Warple out the door. I think it doesn't make sense for him to move at this point. It would be weird if he did, in my view. But if he was to move, Essendon, well, now I got heavily criticised for saying that they have fragile players. So I'm just going to move on from Essendon because we wouldn't want to upset the Bobbers fans.
They keep proving you right, though, Jesse. It's just that's the problem.
It's hard.
I know.
It's hard. Collingwood, that's another one where with Pendlebury inside bottom, I know they don't really play a lot of midfield minutes strictly anymore, but when you're looking to transition around, potentially a really good fit at Collingwood, Mitch Lewis. And Adelaide, I mean, copy-paste what I said for Sam Walsh. They need a midfielder. Although, again, he's probably different in the fact that he's probably not as much of an inside mid as Walsh is. So interesting how that dynamic would work with guys like Dawson, Rankin, potentially even Curtin and Draper pushing up as well from the younger group. So we'll see with Lewis, but I think he stays.
Now, this next one, I saw this on on your little notes, and I was just like, oh, yeah, we might lose this fella. We'll see how he goes. Sam Switkowski. Look at that smile.
Can I be honest?
Look at that smile. Do we have to lose that smile, Jesse?
I think he's going to leave.
Yeah, I think he might too as well.
I look at what Switkowski is expected to do every week, and the cap space at Fremantle will have to compensate him for that. And also the fact that I don't think Fremantle are going to achieve on the field to the level they're expected to by a lot of people this season. I think, 8th to 10th is sadly, or 7th to 10th is sadly where I think they're going to end up. And they look at 2 of the 3 clubs I've placed in that list. Defending premiers, arguably should be premiership favourites, if not second or third billing on that list.
The Lions, yeah.
It makes sense for a short-term contract. Brisbane, especially with Charlie Cameron starting to age out, you can move Magnus around. Lohman potentially goes higher up the ground. You can move Switkowski up the ground and keep Lohman deeper. You've got so many options with that there to fit Switkowski into that line side. And look, I don't think any club's going to pay him that much anyway. So the offer discrepancy isn't going to be that big, I don't think. And then you get, Fremantle potentially treading water. Brisbane's a hard one, right? Because they could easily slump at any point because they've been very good for a long time. So they could just have a crash. Sure. Not saying they will, they could.
They could.
They appear to be a team that's trending steady, not trending upwards, which is totally fine when you're in that window like they are.
Yeah, when you're a double premiership team, trending steady is fine.
Hawthorn clearly trending up. I think Hawthorn, it's interesting because you look at guys like Butler and Watson in that forward, and they say, well, could they end up higher up the ground? And then a player like Switkowski unlocks that for them.
I could see Switter in the brown and gold.
Can you imagine how frustrating for a defensive six forward line with Switkowski, Ginnivan and Watson would be?
Yes.
Because you just get no peace.
No.
So
I want it, but I don't want it.
And Carlton love a Fremantle player.
They do. That's true.
I'm pretty sure they actually you have the Doc team store. I'm pretty sure they go in there every week with their debit card and just try and buy merch that has potential Fremantle signings from there, from our 22 on them. Look, I think Switkowski leaves. I adore Switter. I don't want him to go, but this smacks of Lockie Schultz under appreciation.
Yes, and also it's a case of Switter has a very, very samey role for our team. It's that in and under pressure forward who he's just the grunt, right? If he's given an opportunity to kind of spread his wings a little bit in that regard, that's going to be enticing for a player as well.
Keep in mind, Switkowski used to get midfield rotation.
Yeah.
At Fremantle in 2021, he was a midfield rotation. Doesn't anymore.
No. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I think very underappreciated, kind of flies below the radar a lot. So it'd be a shame to lose him, but I kind of tend to agree with you, Jesse, unfortunately. But we'll see where old Switter goes. Hopefully we get a good last year out of him if he was to go. Let's go, Jesse. 2 more to go through. Jared Witts. Look at this beast of a man. If you're looking at this on YouTube channel, look at this man. If you saw him coming towards you, you'd be like, oh, he looks angry. He looks mad. I'm going to cross the road now.
So compared to how happy Mitch Lewis looked a couple of times ago.
Yeah, I know.
This is interesting. I think Witts stays. There is no point in Witts cutting and running at the time that the Suns are about to hit their window.
And he seems to love it there as well.
I think Witts will stay. That's a pretty easy one. But one of the best ruckmen in the competition. Where could he end up? Well, we know Geelong have chased ruckman in recent years. Obviously, Royal Marshall stayed at St Kilda, so there is potentially a vacancy there, which, again, there's an argument to say that makes sense, and it's not an out-of-the-question move for Witts. Melbourne, to me, that's logical with Gawn, but you're only kicking the can a couple of years down the road given Witts' age anyway, so I can see the argument for Melbourne to pursue Witts. I've put him in there for that reason. That's another one. Richmond as well, same boat with Nankervis. I think kick the can down the road a little bit. The thing I like about Witts, though, is the clear leadership quality. So for younger sides like Melbourne and the Tigers, if they do lose players like Gordon and Nankervis, you want clear leaders. I think Witts is that. So from a defined leadership point of view, there's logic to it.
Yep.
I think you're staying, though.
Yeah, I think so too, Jesse. I think so too. Let's go to the last one. We'll wrap this up, shall we? This lovely first episode back after a little bit of a break. Justin McInerney from the Swans.
Hard runner. Very hard runner.
Very hard runner.
What do Essendon need? Essendon need the ability to transition the football badly, desperately. So that makes sense. That's a pretty easy one for me. I actually think that's probably where he ends up if he doesn't resign. North, I think there's a lot of logic in that too.
And also, before you get to Adelaide, obviously, in those two teams, the Bombers and North, given where we think that Sydney's trajectory is kind of going in this from last year into this year, do you think Sydney is going to keep going down, or do you reckon there's going to be some semblance of improvement in the future? Because if not, then he's got no point in not taking a risk on these two teams, these young up and comers.
It's hard with Sydney, right? Because Sydney's list is better than finishing 10th, 11th when it did last season.
Yes, correct.
However, the coach is not. So that then and look, there's another club in that exact same situation right now where there is I don't think the discrepancy is as large at Sydney as it is Fremantle between list quality and coaching and tactical quality, but there's a key discrepancy there. Dean Cox tactically versus Sydney quality, it's not matching up. So Sydney could finish 6th this season on the power of Gordon having a Brownlow year and Kerno kicking 50. But they've still got a thin list outside of that. By the same token, if Kerno gets injured early in the season and they just can't score, Gordon could have a Brownlow record-breaking season and they might finish 9th and get boosted out in a wild card by 80 points.
Yeah.
You just don't know these things. So I guess to answer your question, Sydney, if there's a change in coaching at the Swans, I'd stick with Sydney. If they're adamant that Cox is their guy, a team like North makes sense.
Yeah. And Adelaide, just because you think would be good fit. Yeah.
Hard runner.
Yeah, no, hard to argue, Jesse. Hard to argue. All right, well, there are your top 10, Jesse. Any last little bits to wrap up before we send everyone home?
No, I don't think so. We could talk about Lachie Neale very briefly. I think he ends up at West Coast on a minimum contract. That realistically, West Coast shouldn't be paying anything above the minimum for Lachie Neale. Like they don't need that. They're not going to be contending for a flag next season. So having him on a cheapie makes sense. Having him clog up salary cap when you need to be looking at re-signing, potential young up and comers in that list, it doesn't make sense. Like you get Neale on if you take Neale on a 2-year deal, that starts to play jiggery pokery with re-signing Dersmer and CDT, and you don't want to be doing that.
You know what's going to happen though.
Yeah, and that would be the dumbest thing we've done, except for play Mason Cox, play Bailey Banfield, play Jackson as an on-baller. Actually, no, what? Perfectly on brand.
Yeah, perfectly on brand. It really is. All right, Jesse, that'll do us for this lovely day. Send the lovely people home.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. If you're on YouTube and you enjoyed it, a like and a subscribe are much appreciated. And let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on any of the free agents we've talked about. If you're a fan of a club who's maybe needing to lift up the ladder, what would you like out of that list? Is there a player that you particularly fancy and would like to get on board? You can comment as well on Spotify if you're listening over there. Apple and Amazon, I don't think have that functionality, but you can always leave a review on all three. But the best review you can give us is word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues who join in on our AFL fantasy competition for 2026. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I win. But regardless, life is about participation. So I'm told as a Fremantle supporter. Until next time, I'm Jesse. That's Liam. We'll see you next time on the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast.
Bye, everybody.